The intuitive thinker has a future, but she had no past, no right to exist. Part 2. And there you stood at a moment supreme, and there he was, the dream prince, a coarse American with a great deal of money. Yes, he was to become your husband. And your father said that. Part 2. Your grandmother looked at you. Her eyes said more than 1,000 words. Your grandmother was the one who had crossed every conceivable rule for women of her class. Her practical and wise view of things led her to make remarks such as, "Don't make that child wear such a tight corset. What good is fashion if she is going to collapse because she can't breathe?" And your grandmother made sure that you could laugh. She spent far more time in the nursery than what was unofficially permitted for people of her standing. They were expected to occupy themselves with calling cards and elegant tea parties, with the latest fashions and chic, expensive fabrics from the Middle East, for dresses that would only be worn once. But your grandmother did not do that. She wore them several times, and when she had grown tired of the dresses, she gave them to the governess or the nursemaids. In her circles, this was not normally accepted, but somehow it was accepted from your grandmother. She always remained kind and had a gentle but firm energy. Woe betide anyone who tried to make a fool of her. They would have a hard time of it. No, your grandmother was kind, but no one mocked her. You understood, however, that it had not always been this way. This was because of the image that had been created around women, combined with your grandmother's pure beauty. Your grandmother was still beautiful, even though she had long since passed the age of 65. How did she manage it? She did not use powders because, she said, those powders contain poison, arsenic, lead, mercury. Others would say, well, if you want to be beautiful, you use them. They can't really do any harm, otherwise they wouldn't sell them. Your grandmother said, never ever start using them, my girl. You are beautiful enough just as you are. They wanted to sell things to fill their pockets, not for the sake of your health. In those days, young women sometimes suddenly collapsed and died after taking arsenic wafers or tablets for years because they wanted a pale complexion. And unfortunately, there was no way back. But your grandmother still possessed the secret of old knowledge, and she had a special little room in the house filled with all kinds of jars and pots. She told you about it and wanted you to learn. Marigold, cornflower, rosemary, and the seeds of nasturtium. Come, dear child, she would say, let us walk through the books together. And she opened her drawers, and there they were, books filled with descriptions and dried flowers. The scent transported you to the seventh heaven. You were 7 years old when she began to initiate you into the world of mysticism and herbal medicine. But be careful, she said. Keep it to yourself. Be careful who you share it with, because the world we live in now is not kind to women who are independent and possess knowledge. Edward Clarke published in his book in 1873, and he argued that intensive intellectual education for girls could harm their reproductive organs because, according to this theory, energy would be directed towards the development of the brain instead of the reproductive system. His ideas were taken seriously, and higher education for girls was strongly discouraged for that reason. And your grandmother said, "This is nonsense. Please read a lot, develop yourself as much as you can, and not only in languages, but learn more. I will help you as much as I can, because we bear the name of nobility. But do you know that originally it meant something different from what it means now? It meant being noble-hearted, meaning that you actually serve other people rather than become wealthy at their expense. That is the original meaning. And so, women healers have always been part of the castles. Your grandmother gave her own healer shelter for a long time, until eventually this was made impossible. But she had made sure that she could obtain a house of her own, a small cottage with a hearth and a place for her animals. That was your grandmother. But her gaze right now, you can feel her. You can feel her unease about a wealthy man with whom you are expected to share your life. She looks at you, and her gaze contains tenderness, but also a glimmer of concern. To be continued. Thank you for listening.